Namaste. So, in my opinion, religion has failed us, and it's time to move on to something better. By religion, I mean religious organizations, religious society in general, and organizations in general are based on religious paradigms, which are basically templates of what an ideal human being or ideal human life should look like. And the problem is in the concept of an ideal, that this is the right way, and that in practice becomes this is the only way. And anybody who doesn't fit that paradigm or can fit within the model that the paradigm justifies is excluded from religious society, religious organizations, discriminated against, and unable to fully participate in the community. And this leads to their isolation and, importantly, their radicalization until they basically become an independent actor and couldn't care less whether the society as a whole survives or does not. So this is a tremendous problem in today's world, because in Kali Yuga, I mean, let's face it, how many people actually meet the requirements of the religious model? You have to grow up, in a functional, non-toxic, both parent household, preferably with numerous brothers and sisters and extended family around you. You have to be of normal, quote unquote, that is conventional heterosexual orientation. And you have to be a wage earner or, in the family of a wage earner. Otherwise, you are considered not eligible for the benefits of spirituality. Now, this is a huge problem because in Kali Yuga, who can meet these requirements? Only a very small minority. And speaking as a person who was, by the very contingent, accidental circumstances of my birth, considered outside of religious society, religious culture, and treated as such, treated as an anomaly, treated as a person that has less rights than a member of the mainstream religious society. I can tell you that this has done tremendous damage in my life and made it much more difficult than it needed to be. So am I talking about throwing out religion altogether? No, just the social part. The spiritual part is perfectly good. Like if we take the Vedic wisdom, for example, the Upanishads and Vedanta, the Brahma Sutras, even the Puranas are perfectly good. And the instructions they give are workable. Maybe you have to rearrange your life a little bit, but they're basically doable if you have sufficient determination and commitment. But what is not doable in today's social environment in Kali Yuga is that you meet the external requirements, as I went over in the beginning, and if you come from any kind of alternative sexuality, any kind of alternative tastes in life that are outside the religious paradigm, the religious social paradigm, you can't be accepted. You can't avail yourself of all of the benefits of the religious society. Now, I also count what we call nowadays politics, economics, and even scientism, the religion of science, as religions, because they are idealisms like democracy, Marxism, tribalism, conservatism, liberalism, whatever, any belief system that posits an ideal for human society is going to suffer from the same problem, that a minority of people are included and the majority are excluded. So if our organizations, and by organizations I mean everything from the family all the way up to nation states, if our organizations are based on some kind of idealistic projection or imagination created by human intelligence as to what we think the ideal or the proper or perfect human life should be, it's not going to work for the majority of people. It's only going to work for those people who are lucky enough to be born in that kind of situation. Let's take, for example, the current ideal of let's say, an entrepreneur or startup CEO, who becomes very wealthy enough that they don't have to work anymore for the rest of their life and they can do whatever they want. This is a kind of archetype. This is a kind of ideal that we project as a goal, basically, for everybody. But who can do this? Only people lucky enough to be born in a situation that allows them to jump through the hoops that get them to that place. You would need some good college degree in some relevant subject that allows you to earn a lot of money and that exposes you to the opportunities for startups that can be successful in today's business environment, and so on and so on and so on. And of course, a bit of luck. How many people can do this? Less than 1%, in my opinion. Way less. Maybe 1 in 1,000, maybe 1 in 10,000. So what we're doing every time we create one of these idealistic archetypes is we're basically excluding the majority of people from their benefits. I think everybody should have their own business. I think anybody can be a startup manager if they have a good idea, or even if they just want a lifestyle that agrees with them. They should be able to build a business on that, maybe with the help of AI. This is coming. But in conventional religious-based society, and remember, I also include, political, economic, and scientific beliefs in the category of religions, because they're based on a priori assumptions which may or may not be validated. Even though, for example, even though scientists consider themselves empiricists, the things that they believe in, like the Big Bang, evolution, etc., have not been and cannot be proven by empirical observation. And of course, the same goes for any kind of philosophy, whether it be economic, political, or spiritual. The certain root assumptions that one must make to participate in that kind of thinking and the community based on it are not subject to validation. They only allow you to construct a fixed universe of thought based on these assumptions and the definitions based on them. And that's all, it's a machine for thought. And the machine will only work and give right answers in situations that match the a priori assumptions. For example, that everybody should be born and raised in a two-parent household. But those assumptions don't hold anymore. They were a byproduct of an age where people were much more conformist and much more moralistic and judgmental because of it. And when people didn't fit that paradigm, they were pretty much rejected by the society, or at least by the power-possessing or wealth-possessing sections of the society. In any case, they were discriminated against. And because of that, were unable to reach their full potential in the things that they do well. Like I read one article yesterday about a kid who grew up in a one-parent household in a condition of poverty, and nobody would listen to him. Nobody would help him to learn in school and stuff like that because of it, because of the extreme religious bias against his family situation, which has nothing to do with him as an individual. Yet it constrained the opportunities he had for learning, for counseling, for getting good advice, and so on. So what happened? He wound up trying to rob a liquor store with a toy gun and went to prison for 10 years or something like this. And there he got hooked up with some good counseling and good advice and education opportunities and like that. That's the kind of society we have today, that you almost have to get in serious trouble before you have opportunities. If you don't live in one of these optimal families, you almost have to get in serious trouble before you have the opportunities to education, training, counseling, advice, and socialization, association. Why am I going into all this? Last night I had a dream that there was a new generation of spiritual people who want to attain enlightenment, but who don't fit the criteria of religious organizations, and that they are going to come into prominence. They are going to be like the next wave of spiritual, social organization that is going to supplant and ultimately do away with the old insular, sectarian type of religious organizations. And I say, good. It's something we've needed for a long time. And I support this alternative religious orientation. So let's go beyond the religious organizations of the past. Let's go beyond these limited paradigms that exclude, let's face it, the majority of people in Kali Yuga, just because they're not born in the, ideal type of family environment these religions require. And let's open up the spiritual knowledge, make it available to everyone so that they can know, they can understand what they are, which is truly the supreme Brahman. Only limited by these conventional beliefs and unnecessary restrictions which have been passed down in these religious organizations. That is my hope, that the next generation will get this and be able to reject religious organizations and go beyond religion to true spiritual enlightenment. Aum Tat Sat. Aum Shakti Aum. Aum Namah Shivaya.